Art?
That was a lot of rain.
Yeah, it was.
And then on the, what we got yesterday.
Yeah. Crazy. Crazy, crazy.
Yeah, good, yeah. Good to see Herb and Robert.
Were you able to go today?
I was just showing you earlier. I got the first one there.
Good.
I was there 11 to 11:45 or something like that.
I took Holly and Katie into the airport at 5, and we left the house at 4:15. And I was out of it most of the day. I had a meeting at 8 and then just rolled into stuff and then at 12. It's like, because I wanted to leave the house around 10 and just be there early.
Yeah.
And I was mad at myself. Like, no,
Well, I was the last time I worked, I had, and not noticed the regular schedule, but I
Yeah.
had somebody there after me for an hour.
Yeah.
There, so. It was like 5 minutes away. Maybe
Oh,
I'll get it
yeah, that's fine.
tomorrow. So I see Caroline,
Yeah.
the junior. She's just like on her mom.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah. Hey guys,
What's up?
how we doing?
We're here.
Hey, you Mr. Obvious.
This is what it's like before 7 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
Oh, really?
Wait, are we early?
I'm here.
Yeah.
4:07, go like, is this Wednesday?
Right?
Exactly.
We start to rethink everything.
Yeah, but like, how do you never watch, see what day this is?
Oh, we're at the
Hello there. How you doing? Hi. Say it again. How many other fixing for price of time?
What chapter are you guys ready for in there?
21.
21. All right. We may want to, depending on how many people are here. If this just, this right here.
Austin was gonna be here, so I know that.
Austin is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But
Well,
I'm okay with that.
all right. Yeah,
Austin and
Nice lady.
kids, or just Austin?
That's a good question. I only know about Austin. So you and I coordinate.
Oh, no.
I would assume so, however, school starts tomorrow.
Yeah,
Like
the school
state
started
fair.
today.
They're not at the
Today.
state fair yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
school started today, state,
That's
they're
right.
gonna
There
state
you
fair
go.
tomorrow.
That's, yes.
So.
I,
We have to set up.
good question for you. Good song.
yeah.
That was on fun. I understood it. I go. Alright. I don't know yet. I'm gonna get my stuff just in case.
Dry as a bug, baby, dry as a bug. Never before here. But, I don't know. Oh, it's like, no, the party looks this nice today.
Oh, I like that. We'll just turn it on for this.
Oh, yeah, I mean, a lot of places, electricity's out,
Gotcha.
roads flood, places, they got bad there.
So,
It's pretty rough.
just have- just have-
We got a lot of rain yesterday.
Yeah.
Stay around.
There he is, we can start now.
We were just contemplating whether we would want to have one big group study or two smaller ones. I think you guys are ready for chapter 21, and we're finishing up chapter 20, so it'll be close.
Too small, it would be like a one-on-one.
Right? Yeah. It'll be, that's good. All right. So, oh, there's a Smith. Smithy. Right, right. I know. I'm just gonna. Cool. Well, so I wanted to share something that I heard. It was a Tim Keller analysis. He was talking about when Yuri Gagarin, which was the first Russian astronaut, went into space and came back. At the time, the Soviet Union, their official religion was atheism. And so Yuri Gagarin went into outer space and then came back and said, I've just proved God doesn't exist. I went into space and he wasn't there, so I proved he doesn't exist. And so he thought he had confirmed it. Well, at the time, C.S. Lewis was alive, and he wrote a response, an article, and he said, you've got it wrong. You don't relate to the creator like a person on the first floor relates to a person on the second floor. You don't just go up a floor and say hi. You would relate to the creator sort of like Hamlet would relate to Shakespeare. Hamlet has no idea who Shakespeare is. He's never met Shakespeare, and unless Shakespeare writes himself into the play, Hamlet will never experience Shakespeare. So there is an author, Dorothy Sayers. She wrote novels, and there was one, it was Lord Peter Wimsey, and she had a series of novels about this, and people that really kind of were fans of hers and scholars of hers say that at some point there's this character that shows up in a Dorothy Sayers novel, Victoria Lane or something like that. I can't remember the name, but so she shows up and Lord Peter Wimsey falls in love with her and they live happily ever after. And everyone says that that was Dorothy Sayers writing herself into the book. She had written so much about Lord Peter Wimsey, and that she had kind of fallen in love with him and loved his character, and she shaped him to be the kind of man that she thought would be a great, honorable man. And so she wanted to write herself into the book. So in that instance, Lord Peter Wimsey actually got to meet the author in a sense. So when we think about like, okay, well, how am I going to interact with God? I can't just go into outer space and go see God like he's on the second floor and I need to visit him. But God did exactly what they think Dorothy Sayers did. He wrote himself into the play. And it sounds like this: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him, crying out, saying, "This is the one I spoke about when I said, 'He who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me.'" God wrote himself into the story so he could meet every one of us. And I think that's just a beautiful idea, a recognition that the gospel is God writing himself in such a way that he becomes the groom and we are his bride. Right? Only he didn't fall in love with us and want to marry us. He saw that we needed to be redeemed. He saw that we were naked and homeless and destitute and about to shrivel up and die. And instead, he came down and he nourished us and cherished us and brought us salvation. So I just thought that was a really beautiful idea to kind of bring to the table. And since there aren't that many people here, I'll probably use that again sometime in the not so distant future. This might be a little hard, but I think we can handle it. If we could do the green books and do Lord, I Believe. It's an old song that I remember singing incessantly when I was growing up. So I thought it would be good for us to bring it back, and in the light of God writing himself into our lives.
What page would that be?
75, sorry.
You're right.
Good question. Great question. 75, Lord, I Believe. When we behold the wonders of creation, the flowers that bloom, the raindrops as they fall, the spacious skies and life's perpetuation, we cannot doubt that God controls it all. Lord, I believe. Lord, I believe. Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe. I cannot doubt. I cannot doubt. For we see. The island sea. The island sea. Each sparrow falls. His unseen hand. His unseen hand is in it all.
I got it.
All right.
Health updates, Renee, knee surgery coming up. Today was a funeral for Marlene Smelser. Keep the whole family in their prayers during this difficult time for Herb and Robert and the whole family that is going through this. Light post for any updates on health news. If there's any updates, let me know. I'll give them to Kevin for Sunday. Kuntz's, Holly, and Canyon are in South Carolina right now. Lesson on Sunday, Jace on service latitudes. Youth gathering, upcoming event, September 12th. Theme is teens and technology. Anything that I need to announce that I did not announce? All right, Tristan.
Please pray with me. Gracious and loving Father, thank you for allowing us to be able to come here so that we may continue studying in Genesis. Help us as we do, and help us be able to take something away from it so that we can apply it to our lives and even share it in the world around us. Be with us as we go to class and help us to be able to remember something from it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Enjoy your classes.
Whatever you guys want to do. I think we probably have enough to split up if you want to, but okay. Yep. Hi. Did you want to teach, Kitty?
Austin wants to stay in here.
All right. One of my favorite jokes is about a preacher who was holding a gospel meeting, and he showed up, and there was only one old cowboy that showed up for the gospel meeting. And he came in and sat down, and the preacher went over and said, "Well, you know, I don't know what to do here. I was expecting a lot more people, but it's just you." And the cowboy was like, "Well, we're here. I'm here. Let's just go ahead with it." And so, you know, I was thinking when I call the cows, well, if only one cow shows up, I still feed him. So the preacher, with renewed vigor, got up and he preached 3 hours, and just you know, laid it all out there, everything he had planned. And so when he got done, he went down and asked the old cowboy, "Well, what'd you think?" And he said, "Well, you know, if I call the cows and only one of them comes, I don't give them all the feed." So we will get all the feed out of chapter 20. We'll finish it out, and however long it takes us, it takes us. We are in the next phase of Abraham and Abimelech. He has just kind of reverted back to his story that he's sticking to with his wife. And what was the story?
That it was his sister.
Okay,
Same story told in Egypt.
good. And how did that work out this time? Well, I guess we don't. We kind of know, but we'll reread that and get into it. But so yeah, let's just go ahead and do that, and we'll start in verse 1. There's only 18 verses in this chapter, so let's just read back through them, and then we'll pick up where we left off. I think we're ready for verse 8. So chapter 20, verse 1 says, "Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, 'She's my sister.' Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, 'There is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, "This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, 'He is my brother.'" Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. And Abimelech said, "My land is before you. Live wherever you like." To Sarah he said, "I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated." Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife, Sarah. Okay, so he reverts back to this story that he's going to tell everyone that Sarah is his sister. God appears before Abimelech and reveals this truth to him. And then what happens? In your own words, what'd you hear?
Where did you stop? Sorry, I was reading that.
Oh, you can pick up anywhere, wherever makes sense.
Well, what stood out to me first was the spot where God comes at him with this accusation.
Good.
So
Tell me more.
God accuses him, he discusses his innocence, and God shows him a way out. And then he seeks the goodwill of Abraham and Sarah and pays them a penalty. And they're on their way. Honestly, I struggled to read this and I think, man, they pulled a pretty good con here.
Right?
It's unique.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I find what's interesting about this time is when Abraham gets called on it, he tries to tell a half truth, or like justify his way out of it, versus the last time he was like, "Yeah, you're gonna kill me, so I just lied." But this time he tries to say that she's my half sister.
Good.
Also, she's his half sister.
She is his half sister, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sister from the same mister.
I wonder how long did all this transpire also, because like the last verse was like, none of the women were able to conceive. Like, this wasn't like a week-long thing. How many months or years, like, did they put 2 and 2 together? Like, hey, these people showed up with babies, or?
Right, yeah. Good point. Yep. So, tell me more about Spivey, go ahead. Sorry.
Back up a little bit more.
Yep.
What I like to, God came in and said, you have sinned, you're going to die. But then in verse 6, kind of gives a little bit of hope for us. The way he responds is, yes, I know you have done this in the integrity of your heart. And it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Even though he sinned, he didn't realize it. And God recognized that. Was trying to, in essence, protect him from this.
Right, yeah.
So what was his sin?
Yeah, so Olivia asked that question kind of on Sunday, like, well, was this actually sinful? Because he didn't really lie, he just told half the truth, right?
Well, this is talking about the king.
Yeah,
This is it, the king
Yeah,
said,
so if you go back to verse
Oh.
30.
Right,
Oh, you are a dead man because of the woman.
Oh,
that
gotcha.
took it,
sorry.
For she is a man's wife.
Yeah, I thought you were asking about Abraham. No, Abimelech, what was his sin? Yeah. So it was, I mean, what do you guys think? What does it sound like to you the sin was?
Taking a man's wife,
Right,
unknowingly, but still did.
right. He still took, and even though he didn't consummate the marriage, he still took her as his wife. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But the intent was there, just because it didn't happen because of God, the intent was still there to do that.
Yes, I think he intended, you don't accidentally marry someone unless you're Alan Jackson, there's a song about that, anyway. But you usually don't, unless you're in Vegas, you usually don't marry someone accidentally. So he definitely intended that, but I don't think he intended to commit adultery and take another man's wife. That wasn't his intent. He thought, and again, I think we pointed out on Sunday, remember, picture the right Sarah here. What do we know about Sarah in this moment? She's like 90 years old.
But obviously stunning.
Oh, right. She's aged well. Okay.
That makes me feel
Look
better.
at the day over 16.
We're gonna look at day over what?
16.
16. Okay. So still beautiful enough to where people are attracted to her. Past the age of childbirth, though, at least she feels like she would be. And so it's not like you're going to produce offspring. This is purely a sort of a concubine type situation where you just amass more and more possessions, and the more wives you have, the more status you have, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's Biden.
So the other part here is Abraham's the one that chose to go down this route of saying she's my sister.
Yep.
God is coming in to protect her in his promise of lineage through Abraham.
Yes.
God is providing that protection for himself.
Yeah. So if Abimelech consummates the marriage, and then Sarah shows up pregnant, what do you think is going to be inferred? That the child is not Abraham's, right? So that definitely serves the purpose for telling this story, right? So if that is a primary point here, is that God orchestrated the fulfillment undeniably of his promise through Abraham, not through another king, right? Even though Abraham is trying to mess it up. Other thoughts?
I found it interesting that I don't know anywhere else in Scripture that God has said that he's kept from someone from sin.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that all plays in, obviously, this protecting the lineage.
Yeah.
And he was going to make sure that his will was done.
Yes.
But it just falls very interesting to me that nowhere else in Scripture do you find that every man has free will and can sin or can obey, whichever. And in this case, no, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. I sometimes wonder if that is, I've heard people pray that, to God, that God would frustrate their efforts if they weren't according to his will, right? That God would keep them from going down paths that they shouldn't be going down, right? Jace?
Well, but that effect doesn't say that I kept you from doing that because basically it was heart posture, right? Like I understood like your intent.
Oh, yeah.
And that there was no ill will there. And so like because he had the proper heart posture, like God's grace allowed him not to be tempted with the sin. Was that kind of like, you know what I mean? Like it was almost like God affording him some sort of grace to say, I'm going to kind of shuttle you out of the situation, kind of sort of,
Yeah.
because of your heart posture being proper, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of contrast that like with, I'm keeping like every rule of the law, but maybe my heart posture isn't actually like toward God, it's toward like my own selfish desires. I'm just trying to make myself look good and keep within the bounds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's my Western way of thinking, but when I read this passage, that's what I go to. I go to he did this in a clear conscience, and God kept him from sinning because he had a clear conscience. And I don't know if that is, again, because of my kind of Western Judeo-Christian ethic that is just ingrained in my value system, that God would never do anything that didn't honor my good intentions, right? God would never blame me or hold me guilty for something like that. But yeah, I think it is more about the storyline that that God's going to bless Abraham and Sarah. And so he's got to make sure that he keeps that intact.
To your point a minute ago, though, of Abraham putting himself in this situation, according to what he says, he says he did it because of the fear that God was nowhere in this place and they would kill him.
Yes.
Therefore, the promise would still not be carried out.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's another little caveat.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is one of the reasons Abraham gave for only telling half the truth is because he thought there was no fear of God in that place, and that they would surely kill him and take Sarah. And that would nullify God's promise. That would keep it from happening, right? So here's Abraham, faith and works, hand in hand. Yeah, Don?
Is Abraham blaming God here too? Because when you get to 13, and when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said there. So I came up with this grand plan when God forced me out of my comfort zone and told me to go to a place that he would show me. And
Good question.
To go to this place that he would show me, I had to come up with this plan so we could travel safely. And sorry you got involved, but God started this whole mess.
Right. It kind of does read that way. I don't know if
Abraham also doesn't really have the fear of God in this moment because he's taking matters into his own hands.
Yeah.
He's not trusting in God to keep him safe.
That's true. Yeah. In a very technical sense, for sure. Yeah. But in contrast, there's God, faithful, making sure his promise is going to be fulfilled. Honoring people's clear conscience, thwarting humanity's efforts to derail everything, right?
Sarah also went along with it this time. I don't remember that in the previous.
Oh, right, yeah.
This time it says that they both killed
Abimelech, yeah.
She was his sister.
Yeah, right.
Something else stand up to me was
verse 17, and God says this right beforehand. As Abraham prayed to God, God built his wife and also built his wife and people slaves, so they were children. So just, it reminds me of like the forgiveness sort of thing. Like, not that Abimelech, we would say, like, owed him any sort of, like, I'm sorry, right? Like, I did anything wrong to you, like, you kind of wronged me in the situation. But the fact that there was again, like, just kind of framing it, forgiveness, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna pray for my enemy kind of thing from Abraham, that it, like, physically healed him in this instance, right? But anyway, again, just like the idea, all the forgiveness language in the New Testament, and like, if you don't forgive, then you will not be forgiven, and some of the parables about if someone has something against you, then make sure that you deal with that before they go to the judge, because then they'll take everything. Like, that kind of language comes to mind there, very vaguely and kind of
Right. For sure, yeah. Excellent.
So I think there's another little thing here that to Mike's point of Abraham not trusting God, that if he prejudged the situation, and because of his prejudging the situation, it caused him to go down a path that was not the right path. And I think that today falls in our lap. We prejudge situations and we do things that we're not trusting in God to pull us through as well and be where we need to be.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's a big lesson for us.
Yeah.
No different than Jonah.
Yep.
Prejudging.
Yep. Good point. Really good point.
I also think it's interesting, just like verse 7, like you go to the man and because he's a prophet and he'll pray for you and save you from death. Just interesting that Abraham is a mediator between him and God and save you from death.
Yep. So Abraham is the advocate here and going to be the vehicle by which this man is saved. Kind of an interesting.
Who was deceiving in the first place?
Yeah, right? Yep. Yeah, it reminds me of James 5, the idea that if you turn a sinner from sin, if you turn someone from sin, you remember, if anyone should bring that person back from the error of their way, they will save them from death and cover a multitude of sins.
It's just so odd because it seems like Abraham is the one who has sinned here.
Yeah.
Right.
It just seems so backwards.
Yeah.
But he is still considered the righteous one here.
Mm-hmm.
And Abimelech is the one that is called the sinner. It is baffling.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then Abraham gets the atonement. He gets the sheep, the livestock, his choice of land. And then Abimelech says to Sarah that I've given him thousand pieces of silver to proclaim your innocence, and you're still whole, and you have not been defiled. So that all will know. So it's just, yeah. Again, only God can.
Right? Good.
I feel like this is one of those times we get to see behind the scenes of God actively blessing him, even though he totally messed up. It probably happens to us all the time. Like, we are probably abundantly blessed, no matter what we've, like, messed up in the past. Like, if you think about friends and family and all kinds of things that we don't deserve, if we could see the behind the scenes and everyone could comment on our stories, they might be like, she even just did that. Why is he letting her in here?
Right.
She's the one who messed up. But that's the God.
Yeah.
That's our Father God. So
Yeah.
I look at the story and I see me and I see times I've messed up. And if I look back really well with good glasses on, I didn't deserve the ending. You know what I mean? So I just feel like this is just one of those, this is the God
Right.
we have.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting idea to Imagine if someone were reading the pages of your story and they go, well, here goes Brad again, totally selfish and can't be content with anything. Like, what is he thinking? God's given him all this and he's still not content. Yeah. And and what do you know? He gives him what he asks for anyway.
It makes me think of Hebrews 7, because Jesus lives forever, he has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he is able to save completely those who come to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them. So right now, he is up there interceding for those who are in Christ. And, we talk about that light switch mentality. When you mess up, it's not your light switch is off, you're not saved now. As long as you are in Christ, you're still going to mess up. And Jesus Christ is interceding all the time, over and over for us.
Yeah.
Over and over and over.
Yeah. Have you ever had to be the friend to go to somebody else and be like, look, he didn't mean that. He feels really bad. Please don't hold this against him. Like, he loves you and all, and try and talk people down from despair, right? And then to think that here Jesus is doing that for us to the Father. It's really hard. I've been in his shoes and I know what he's feeling, Father. Be patient. He loves you.
Well, not only that, he's pointing to the blood that is on us and saying that debt has already been paid.
Yeah.
That I'm putting these words, I know you're frustrated with him, but he has my blood and I paid that debt.
Yeah.
He is one of yours.
Yeah. Do the right thing.
That gives me
Yeah.
chills, because it's not us going, I know he's done it, you need to do it one more time, forgive him again. It's the price has already been paid.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen the pictures and the memes with Jim Caviezel and Mel Gibson, where Jim Caviezel's in his crucifixion garb and he's sitting there next to Mel Gibson on set of the Passion of Christ, and Mel Gibson's like leaning over to talk to him, and here's what looks like Jesus with thorn of crowns, blood, and in the throes of that, and he's listening, and just the juxtaposition there of that's what it's like, to a degree, that the Savior's there, crucified and bending his ear to our stupid little petty complaints and requests, right? Man, who knew that Genesis 20 was actually such a intense picture of the gospel? But here it is. Beautiful. If you got anything else, just shout it out. I'm going to look at my notes here.
But I keep going back to, should we keep on sinning that grace may abound?
May it never be.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yep. I think we've... Yeah. And we pointed this out too, that the preserving this seed through Abraham is not just preserving this promise, but the promise to Sarah, Isaac, Israel, David, and ultimately Jesus. Like, this is the seed through whom all nations will be blessed. So of course we would get the gospel here. What did you get from the pagan king rebuking Abraham, the man of faith? What were some of the comments? What do you notice from that?
creator of heaven, and even if he didn't know him by name, he knew of his power. And so when he was asked to go to the husband, the one who brought this wife to him, or at least into his land, he's pretty direct, and I think I would too.
Yeah. It's sort of Abimelech is sort of a Melchizedek moment, because like, who is Abimelech to feel like he is contrite, like he's blaming Abraham for this because he didn't do it knowingly, but it seems to be straight up feeling guilt that he took someone's wife, and here he is, a pagan king.
Well, this is a dream for him that doesn't have to be interpreted. It is a communication,
Right.
but in a dream with him. And then he woke up and it was so real. He told his servants, and they were afraid.
Yeah.
So that did stick out to me, and the men were very much afraid at the end of verse 8. That it was so real that night that he didn't, like other kings had to call for interpreters to understand the dreams
Right.
and what God was telling them.
Right.
There was
Crystal
no
clear
interpretation
message.
here.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he shows his fear, and Abraham has said, I thought there was no fear of God in this place. Abimelech is terrified
Yes.
of God.
Yeah.
And Abraham is taking advantage of his relationship with God, where Abimelech is called out and realizes that I am nothing compared to this God.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That screams Rahab to me too. Like, oh, I knew that God was all powerful, and so I knew I had to take this moment to be faithful to Him. Because I've seen what God does through you, right? Lauren, do you have something, or you just?
No, what was it, back in which chapter, when we first get to introduce Genesis 12 to
Yeah.
Abraham, and like how, as Jesse put it, time slows down immensely. Since then, to me, and I was just thinking, like, he was called at 75, this is happening at 90 or whatever, so it's like, he went from not knowing God, or like, it reads back in Genesis 12, like, Abraham was randomly picked. It wasn't like Noah or Enoch or something like that, where it was like they walked closely with God or they were friends. It was just picking Abraham, and now he's a prophet here in chapter 20 or whatever.
Right. Good.
Which is a prelude to now I know. That the maturity of Abraham called to offer Isaac. I know spoiler alert. But that's why that verse just sticks with me too, is now
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And Abraham needed everything before that event to trust God.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I do think it is interesting that, like, even when Abimelech comes to Abraham, he says, like, how did I sin against you that you would bring this sin upon me? Like, he never accuses Abraham of anything. He's just like, what did I do to you to make you Abraham?
Wow. I mean, there's your peacemaker lesson too. Like, even when you know you're a totally clear conscience, it's a great thing to ask. Like, did I do something to you to make you lash out at me or whatever? You know, maybe I caused this, right? If only I did that. Yep, good stuff. Okay, so then the last section, starting in verse 14, is when Abimelech brings these gifts to Abraham and exonerates Sarah, restores Abraham. God restores Abraham rather than abandoning him. And yeah, just it's this beautiful picture of restoration all the way around. Yeah.
Verse 16.
Yep.
Someone that doesn't call him Sarah's husband. He calls him
Your brother.
My version has like air quotes around it, and I read it in
Oh,
a
nice.
sassy voice, like that's, the NLT says, look, I am giving you your brother.
Uh-huh.
He
Right.
says, silver.
Yeah.
Does yours have quotes around it, Dawson?
No,
Okay.
just
No, mine doesn't either. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Did they have air quotes back in Abraham's time?
It's a single.
Yeah, it was just, yeah. It was back in the days of only single quotes. Yeah. Yeah, before the double quotes came along. Yeah.
Quotes.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Yeah. I'm quoting you. I'm giving you your brother 1,000 shekels. Yeah. Yeah, good observation. I think we've kind of pulled out all the things that I was looking for. So here's an interesting little tidbit, and I'll ask it in a question. In verse 7, what does God call Abraham? A prophet. Okay. So that is the first time that word is used in the Bible. Why do you think God called Abraham a prophet?
Well, he talked with God.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
And be sharing a message from God.
Yep. He's definitely blessed by God. He's wearing that identity, that image. He's an image bearer. So it's an interesting occurrence there.
And as someone already said, he was mediating between
Yeah.
the king and God.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Serving
Like
as
the traditional idea of like prophecy or like foretelling the future. It's like he was directly shared about him, right? And his lineage and his family, like this is going to happen. Right? So that's
Yep. Good.
So another thing that kind of is strange, a little bit strange to me is verse there in the end of verse 16, where he says these gifts are so that you are vindicated.
Yeah.
Well, what did she do wrong? She was taken by him,
Right.
and you're
And she went willingly. She didn't say, I'm a married woman.
in front of all your people.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, but
I just see that as her honor is restored.
Yeah.
yeah.
It would be tainted.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He's going out of his way to communicate that this marriage was not consummated. I'm giving all these things to her, fulfilling. Maybe that was part of the dowry that Abraham gave him. Who knows? Maybe he's returning all this to him. I don't know, but yeah, definitely clearing her name.
that reminds me a little bit of in the Gospels, like the Spirit come to Joseph, Gabriel come to Joseph saying, "Don't worry, like she had slept with somebody else." Like, so there's still an innocence there, and Joseph kind of covering her, protecting her innocence in the situation.
Yes. Good. Yep. Right, yeah.
They are kind of a Joseph, Mary, Jesus situation here.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. Carry it even further, yeah. That's about to happen. Some of the discussion questions that I had were, what does this teach us about God's grace toward his people after they fail? I think we've talked about that. Tim, do you have anything?
Well, I think I may have just figured it out.
Okay. What'd you figure out?
So, verse 17, 17. God healed Abimelech and healed his wife and female slaves. The Lord had closed all the wounds of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah.
Yeah.
Did that just happen in the background? Like,
right,
it's not listed in the verses above. Like I've
correct. Yeah, I think it's circling back to that. Yeah, I think what Jen was pointing out was, so this had to be over a long enough time that you would recognize that all of a sudden everyone in your house is infertile. And you'd be wondering why this is happening. It doesn't say that he did, but maybe he was crying out to God and asking him, why is this happening? And God reveals it to him. Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's what he really means by you're as good as dead. Because you can't be a father anymore. You can't father any more children. Clearly, because no one in your house can have offspring. So you're as good as dead.
And that sentence is, but if you do not return her, you shall surely die, and you and all yours.
Right.
And that's based on an if-then.
Right.
He does return her.
Yes. Yeah.
So to your point about you're as good as dead, at that point, it doesn't say, but it would almost indicate that he had no children at that point.
Maybe. Yeah.
For him to say you're as good as dead.
Maybe so.
To your point.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Isaiah passage in Isaiah 56 about the eunuch, where no longer shall people say of you, and let no eunuch complain, I am only a dry tree. Just kind of this, like, I'll never bear fruit. And that would be like a lot of eunuchs were not of their own choice. Like they were, and that would be something they'd be lamenting. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just kind of reminded me of that. Yeah. So let's wrap it up with this. So in Genesis 15, verse 6, it says, famous passage, that Abraham believed the Lord and he counted it to him as righteousness. And then look at Abraham 5 chapters later, he's lying again, and it actually makes Genesis, that passage, even more powerful, because if Abraham's righteousness depended upon maintaining flawless behavior afterward, then he would already be in serious trouble, right? But his standing with God rests upon faith and God's grace, not his flawless performance. And Paul eventually takes Abraham's story and uses it to explain the gospel, which is Abraham in Romans 4:3. Abraham believed God and it was counted to him as righteousness. It becomes a gospel saying and a gospel principle that we see from Abraham, that it is because he believed God, and that was counted to him as righteousness. Anything else?
Yeah, just kind of along those same lines, continue in sin so that grace may abound, may never be. Our sin should help us to grow in the knowledge of who God is. And so we see through Abraham's shortcoming here, we learn something about who God is.
Yes.
And it helps us to grow in our knowledge of who God is. And we can find the same thing when we fall short. How did God reveal himself? And it should teach us more about who God is. And as we grow in that knowledge, ultimately, the ultimate is to live with God forever in full knowledge of him. And so the more we know about him, the more we become like him until we attain full knowledge of him.
Right. Always growing and maturing, growing up to be like Ephesians 4, just like Jesus, we grow into that role. Good. All right. That's all I've got. Thank you for a good discussion.